Some of the most untrustworthy men are men who are overly religious and zealous.
This is actually true on all fronts. Almost every religious person is a hypocrite. That's why you can't be religious, because being religious is focusing too much on the ritual, looking good, making sure you're practicing the stuff that we see in church coming from a traditional perspective. Just like, all right, I go to church, I sing the songs, I pay my tithes, I wear the suits, I wear the dresses. Like, that's religious stuff. It's like I'm doing the stuff that I'm supposed to do, but then on every other day of the week, I'm not loving, not kind, not walking in truth, not trying to live like how Jesus would want me to live. And what's crazy is that, this creator, he pointed this out, but then I thought on the flip side of like, okay, yes, all of these people that he's talking about, that fits the mold, that's true. But religious people are the same ones that put Jesus to the cross. The Pharisees, they were the ones worried about keeping the Sabbath and not helping people at certain times. They were the ones who weren't helping out the poor or treating other people right because they weren't Jewish. These people were so focused on the rules that they became so legalistic or strict on the rules that their hearts became hardened. And Jesus called out these guys all the time, and even called them a brood of vipers or sons of Satan, like just all of that. Synagogue of Satan was one of the names too. So it makes me think that people have such a hard time with church hurt, which is a very real thing, and it does deserve healing. It does deserve to be addressed. But at the same time, that if you're so hurt by what man has done to you with their version of Christ, who they're not even following the real truth. Like I said, they're hypocrites. And like I said, they're just focused on the strictness, but not focused on what he actually did. Then that's not him. So if you're focusing on the falseness and you fall away completely, that shows more about where you were really at. So if you get hurt by somebody in the church and that causes you to fall away from just your entire belief in God, that shows you that you never loved him in the first place. That's it. And I've had many conversations with atheists, agnostics, Muslims, Jehovah's Witnesses, everything. Or the Conscious Brothers, the Kemet community, all these different belief systems. And I found it commonplace that it's not about, like, when we get down to the nitty gritty, it's not about like even what the people did. It's like they just don't want to believe and change their lifestyle. They don't want to change their heart. They don't want to believe in the one who set the captives free, or whose blood can change or wipe away everything and actually make you feel like you're worth a dang in this life and have meaning. And what's crazy is like people read the Bible, but they don't want to focus on what the Bible actually says and how Jesus, he was the one to exemplify it, and the actual rules that the religious people try to do. But he walked in such a fullness, he didn't let anybody off the hook, whether they were in church or not. So it's just interesting, like when I challenge these people, I was like, look, stop trying to follow a pastor, follow Jesus. And then that's when the conversation shifts and they're like, I don't know, this, that. I'm like, see, it wasn't about you going away from the church. You was never in with God. It's like you weren't never Christian. You weren't really trying to follow Christ. You were just caught up in the system like the ones who hurt you were. And that's okay. You got to realize where you're at before you can get to where you need to go. Like, I always grew up in the church. I've been hurt by people. I've seen wicked stuff. In the church. But I've seen plenty of snakes in that garden. But what made me change is that I would rather be with Christ and be cool with him and be one-on-one with him than to be a part of any system outside of that. So, and that's what helps me change my life that's what helps change my life, just focusing on him and doing what he wanted me to do and allowing him to work on me on a daily basis. It has nothing to do with a church building or with somebody in a fancy suit. So, yeah, like there are wicked people out here who are there are wolves in sheep's clothing. Jesus warned about that. But the whole point was to do what Jesus said and to let him help us out with doing it. So if we really love him, we got to walk it out. And if we don't, we just got to say that. We can't just, like, church hurt is a thing, but if we fell away from the faith, we never had the faith within us in the get-go, because the faith is in Christ. So it just shows me that, you know, in all these debates, you don't even have to get into it, because most of the time people are just hurt and they're hanging on to that hurt and they don't want to let Jesus heal it. So, my brother, I pray that you find healing and deliverance in Jesus like I did. And for all the other ones that listen to this, please stay away from these wolves that my man was talking about. And if you have church hurt, which most of us do, give it to Jesus. No man or man system is going to do it. Like a lot of other religions, it's a quick fix and a band-aid for a bullet hole. Like, that's really all it is. So, yeah, focus on the one who dismantled the system and actually read about it. Because if you read about it, Jesus came at everybody. But he did it in such a loving way that he wanted everybody to be good. When all this other stuff, it just lets you do what you want on a path of self-destruction. So, yeah, y'all. Have a good one.